Hi, everybody. This is Nancy O'Neill with DBHG. Thank you for joining us today. In the studio, we do not have Kimle live, but I do have the privilege of introducing Kimle from a previous broadcast. She was actually one of our first speakers on our live broadcast. So we're going to show that today. Kimle is the former president of the National Association of Black Women in Construction. She recently passed the baton on to another leader in our Metro Detroit area. And she is also the founder and president of Nail Right Construction. So we are so happy to have her as a guest on a previously recorded podcast. Also, Kimle will be joining me for my commercial real estate ribbon cutting ceremony on Tuesday, July 5th from 6 to 7 p.m. at the rec office. Stands for the real estate collaboration. And so I hope all of you can join me. If you are interested in finding out more information about the event, go to our website at dbhg.org. And if you would like to /events, if you would like to RSVP, just email me at nancy@dbhg.org. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get into our previously recorded podcast.
Detroit Business Hub Group Director Nancy O'Neill works with her team of experts. Listen to conversations with business professionals to discover the latest business innovations, insights, and trends. Find out what's hot and what's not in today's business market.
Kimle, welcome. We are so happy to have you as a guest with us today. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us your story. And then we'll talk about your event for a couple of minutes, and then we'll go ahead and get into the interview.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It is truly an honor. I'm excited to be here. I'm looking forward to our time together. Oh, my story. How did I end up being an entrepreneur? That's an interesting backdrop because I had an interesting upbringing. My mother was involved in a religious organization that was pretty much removed from mainstream society. So by the time I started getting acclimated to what the world was about, I was very close, near 30. So I quickly got an education and started the workforce, only to find out as I entered the workforce at like 36, 37, they was like, oh, you have to save for retirement so you have money when you're old. I'm like, there is no way I could do 30 years. My entrepreneurship was born inside of me, and I started doing real estate, fixing and flipping, realizing I had to preserve my wealth, create it quickly. So I leveraged my company, my job and my employment to build a real estate company. And then from there, I just said, you know what? I never have to worry about if they employ me or not, which was great because then I finished out my career finding skill set that I wanted to develop. So I called it paid training. So I would seek contract work for 2-3 years to get expert in something, put something else under my belt. Because if they let me go, I already had a constant flow of income. So I was there to prepare myself. And then 2017, the project I was working on ended, and I was like, this is it. It ended in less than favorable. I was working on a project that I had done research for over a year, and something that had traditionally happened to me when it's time to deliver the results, when all of a sudden that project and research gets all trendy, Cindy, and everybody's glistening and waiting to hear results, it was snatched from me and delivered by a colleague, a white colleague. I need not say more. And I said that was it. And that was 2007, and I didn't look back. So here we are, 2021, and yes, we've had some highs and lows. COVID has made some challenges, but I am not looking back. It's like, okay, what do I need to reinvent? But it definitely will not be someone's clock, 9 to 5.
So what caused you to pivot from real estate to construction?
So in 1995, my family incorporated. We were meeting, we were going to start this family business construction. We would gather at my sister-in-law's house, my brother, and we would come on Sundays, I think it was, and eating food and trying to figure out what the name of our company's going to be. I had two brothers who were drywall finishers, a sister, a brother-in-law, and a brother-in-law who was in sheet metal. Now, Detroit had did this rebirth when they started some renovations when the General Motors moved to the Rinsen.
Okay.
The Opera House was remodeled. There was a lot of in the what they call it, the Arts District.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, oh wow, we can get our company going and we can get those contracts. So that was a passion I had. Wasn't shared amongst the family. That was in 1995 when this first idea came. And then time passed. I went to work, built my career, was doing real estate, fixing, flipping. So I got introduced to, construction from working on my homes. And then my dad got sick and he passed. And then my mom passed.
Oh, wow.
And then I was like, you're over 50 now, girl. What you gonna do? 'Cause we don't start this. It won't happen. And so then there was this win in 2014. Detroit is about to start building new housing. Never has it occurred. And I start researching 2015, 16, and hey, if we can launch this construction company and expertise in our specialty, which is drywall, we should be able to do well. And so I was getting some support, but not all the support I preferred. I got it done, Nancy. I saw the vision,
Sometimes
opportunity, and I went for it. And in 2017, we were licensed, we were bonded and insured, and we got a call to go work with Turner Brooks to work on the Little Caesars Arena. They asked me to come to work. I said, sure, we'll take the contract. I had no workers, but I said, I'll never about money. You're talking about an act of faith. That's what I is. You always creating those things which be not as though they were.
Right.
You would think we get used to God working it out, but we like, oh, we just have this habit of love to seeing the end results.
Right.
I said yes. I've learned this mantra. I call it say yes to be blessed. You don't know how it's going to happen. Just say yes because you want the experience. And it's not my job to worry about how I get that experience. Just state that's what I want. And so this guy called me. I said, I want to work on this project. I wanted to work on some of these iconic projects that were coming to Detroit. There was new housing being built, Ducharme's Place, Orleans Landings, the Little Caesars Arena, this whole district, Detroit.
Right.
And we got a call and we partnered with Turner Brooks and helped them close out that project at the arena. And then that was 2018, they said a big retailer, Foreman Mills, was opening on the west side of Detroit. I got a call. We went and helped develop that 50,000 square foot space. And then 2019, the Pistons decided to come join the Red Wings at the arena. They needed a training facility, and I was honored to be picked up by the Brinker team, who put me in a mentor protege program. So I got to, be right on the ground with something being built monumental. So it's been a great journey. Like I said, and then I did the Goldman Sachs 10,000 small business. I was like, okay, I got to learn some more information because I truly jumped into waters, uncharted waters, because I had no idea what this game was about, what I was learning. I joined the Association of Black Women in Construction. So I was working with them. I figured the best way to learn something is to serve. So I said, I'll be the operations volunteer to chair. And we're just, they're just wanting to learn and give. And then they asked me if I would step up and be the national president. And I've been the national president since 2018. And we have some great things coming this year. And construction is so important to me because what I was exposed to, Nancy, this is the biggest industry that will allow for a wealth transfer into Black communities. Housing projects, everything is $1 billion deal coming straight from the federal government down to our local communities. We just never had our buckets in place.
Right.
And I was like, oh, roads, bridges, all $1 million contracts. Do you know it's $1.9 million to repave 9/10 of a mile of a road?
That's crazy.
Now, mind you, there probably are some high costs there, but because there's no competition, the state has to pay what the state has to pay. There's maybe only 4 competitors. So I'm looking forward to doing more, teaching more, and being in this space to be a part of. This is our reparations.
Exactly.
That was the opportunity to put our bucket.
100 acres and a mule.
Yes. This is an
Did
industry,
you,
yes.
you said you had teamed up with Goldman Sachs, but in terms of like supplier organizations, did you ever work with Michigan Minority Development Council or Supplier Development
You know
Council?
what? I was
Mhm.
growing so fast. I was growing so fast and need to be in position. And those processes take a while.
They do.
And to me, I think it's just it's just my point of view. I think the cost to enter them are kind of crazy. If
Right.
you're working for minorities, I don't understand this fluctuating based on your revenue. You should just be making this opportunity available. So I did go through their training. I paid my $25 to go to WBE training. I haven't gotten certified on any of those yet. Now I did get certified with the city where I was a city certified headquarters because our business is in Detroit. Um, I was a woman, business enterprise. It was they have a DBE or a WB MBE is what theirs is. So I was a WBE MBE with the city of Detroit, registered, but I didn't get the other national certifications. And my thoughts were, Nancy, that's only going to set aside maybe 3 to 5%. All the other 95% is making it without it. So
Yeah, that's what I mean. When you hear of contracts, that they make it sound like that's the place to go is
yeah, not guaranteed.
business supplier council. So
Yeah, it doesn't guarantee anything,
yeah,
unless there's a contract. The only contracting agency is the Department of Transportation. The U.S. Department of Transportation still determines, in some airports, because that's transportation. So
Mhm.
your airports, your port authorities, anything related to national transportation, roads, bridges, the government says there has to be disadvantaged business enterprises on those projects.
Right,
Some of them want 11%, some of them are up to 33%.
right,
So
right.
those who have a good chance. But that's only inside of transportation. And I did not build a company inside of transportation as yet. You have to say as yet because I follow the money.
Having how much did you say it was per mile? Almost $1 million.
So 1.9 million. And you
And
can
there
just
are
go on
always
the
potholes in Detroit. So
yeah, you can go right on the website. You see these numbers. You go right on State of Michigan. You see the contract price. So, like I say, as yet, I've not been in roads or anything. I've just been in building because that's where my family's talent was. But I'm looking for some partnerships and to do some joint ventures to move into some new spaces. Like you said, we follow the money. Think about it. We know that women make massive impact. And as women are in this space of construction, Black women in this space of construction with these type of contracts, look who we will hire. People work with people they know, like, and trust. People will hire people that looks like them. We know this historically. This is nothing new. We
right,
see
right, right.
Asians and Asians beauty supply. We see Chaldeans and Chaldean gas station. So
Mhm.
we don't own enough to make the impact in our neighborhoods. All the other Asians cultures will come into our communities, but the money follows them. So if
Right.
we can get African American women in this space, we can make massive impact. And now we can hire our returning citizens to wages around 16, 17, $20 an hour. We can hire our returning women who need to be reunited with their children and have housing. Heck, we could build housing.
Mhm.
That affordable housing is millions of dollars, billions of dollars. And so that's what opened my eyes to construction. And like I say, I will be a part of this wealth transfer of educating and encouraging more women and businesses to come to this space.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you were here for our January event. You're actually part of the DBHG lecture series this year.
Yeah.
We had Shannon Steele as our opening speaker, our debut speaker. You are up next, April 23rd. So tell us what you are going to be talking about.
So of course, I'm going to be talking about real estate.
Absolutely.
I'm actually going to be
She's a
talking
friend
about
among all of our speakers so far this year. So I know we talk about advocacy because you talk about funds coming back into the Black community and the fact that we have very low home ownership rates.
Yeah.
So just speak a little bit about what you're going to be talking about.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk about building an ecosystem, an
Okay.
ecosystem that creates wealth, collaborative wealth inside of an ecosystem that also solves our problems in our neighborhoods and communities. So it's becoming a wealthy solutionaire. We talk about being millionaires. How about becoming a wealthy solutionaire?
I like that. So first time, did you coin that term?
I did not coin that term. I have been a part of the women in the union who we held monthly, I don't know, annual events called Women Creating Caring Communities.
Okay.
And we would talk about becoming solutionaires, but they just use like solutionaires to our communities. But you can't be a solutionaire to the community if you're not wealthy. Boom.
Absolutely.
Keep it real, right? You need to have bank. You know, we have people get the bag, get the bag. It's no good to get the bag if you keep it to yourself.
Right.
How about becoming a wealthy solutionaire, a wealthy philanthropist? Your desire to meet a need will open doors that you have not even imagined were possible. Because now you're working on universal principle. We know give to receive, correct?
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
know, the greatest of all is the servant of all, right?
Right.
So I'm going to be talking about becoming a wealthy solutionaire, building an ecosystem that addresses all the components of real estate, brings employment, workforce development, put our blight out of our communities, return homes to the tax roll, as well as create homeowner opportunities for our residents, all in one system. A
That's
wealthy
wonderful.
solution. So that's all I'm going to say right now. And I'll show you how you're going to put all that together. And you can start doing it in your community. You can start doing
Almost 2 months to put your spiel together. So I think you have plenty of time. But I remember I saw George Fraser at an event several years ago. And actually they were doing it was Ellis Liddell, George Fraser, I remember Gail Perry Mason, and it was like 20 years ago at WC3, they were doing this wealth webinar, or sorry, seminar in person. It was at their main campus downtown. And I went to that, and then I went to another event and saw George Fraser again. I think it was still part of WC3, but I believe it was at the East Campus. And one of the things that he talked about was building a web. And you know,
Exactly.
he talked about us not working well enough, that we're not really working together. If we are building wealth, we're all kind of on our own islands.
Yes.
And, you know, really the only way that you can build real wealth in the community, you have to transfer the dollar. Well, we can't do that if we're all living in different places, we're all supporting different businesses, and we're not really coming together. So I just thought that that was a really powerful analogy, and I liked how you call it an ecosystem. I see it kind of does the same thing. So
It's exactly the same thing. And I had the honor of meeting George Fraser as well.
I love him. He's one
I
of
went to one of his conferences.
inspirational speakers.
Oh my God. This week they're having the Black CEO. He kicked that off last night. George Fraser.
Okay.
Yeah. It's on I don't know. I bet if you Google, you'll find it where you can register.
Okay.
Oh, it's up great. Well, I went to one of his live events, and I can't even remember where it was. I think I came to hear him speak. He had published this book, and I went to hear, one of my girlfriends was one of the book authors in the anthology that wrote with he and Les Brown.
Oh,
So I
okay.
went to the book
Yeah, I heard
signing.
Les Brown too. I don't talk about him that often, but he's definitely up there.
Yeah.
I don't follow
So I
him.
went to that opening, and he invited me to come to, I can't remember if it was Dallas. I think it was Dallas.
Mhm.
I went to Dallas to hear this whole event. I don't even remember what it was called, but it was really about that same concept. He brought huge numbers of African Americans together,
That's
learning
wonderful.
how we can create that web. And so I
Right.
call it networking where you build a net so tight that it works because no one can fall through the net.
Exactly.
So instead of you trying to be the Lone Ranger in the area of servicing women coming home from prison, find every other organization
Right.
that's doing that. And you guys become the Red Cross of returning women. Now, each one's program can still be intact, just kind of assess where there's overlap, you know? Remove the overlap and then put everyone's program inside of a curriculum. So by the time those women go through all 4 organizations, they are ready. They are
Absolutely.
transformed. We're not competing for smaller dollars, but we can collectively go after the big bucks that are traditionally given to those well-established organizations like Red Cross, Big Brothers, Big Sisters.
Right.
Because they're household names and they have historical data that they, have measured results. So if
Absolutely.
we can team up, yeah, solutionaires, wealthy solutionaires.
I love it. I love it. Well, you definitely have to keep me posted on some of these upcoming events because I'm not always in the loop as much as I should be. But since you're out there working with these different organizations,
Yeah.
then you probably are a little bit more in tune than I am. I'll definitely have to get on my P's and Q's with that. So tell us how you got involved in NABWIC, the Black Women in Construction, National Association of Black Women in Construction, correct? Am I saying it correct?
That is correct. That is correct. I'll
When
tell
you
you.
were the president, you started volunteering, and it looks like you got volunteered into a presidential role.
So let me just tell you how I met these people. We just had a freezing cold winter. Then these last 2 weeks, it was cold as heck, right?
Right, yep.
Okay,
All
so
over the country, actually, except for Florida. It was 79 in Florida when everybody else was having snow and ice storms.
Deep freeze, it's cold. And so the founder of the organization, my sister is in construction. And so we have been talking about going to meet and learn about how we can start our business. And so we were invited to this meeting to hear the founder of NABWIC, Ann McNeil, coming to Detroit, and Jason Cole wanted us to come meet her. Jason.
Okay.
And so I tagged along with my sister, because we're talking about going into business. I was still working at Ford and everything. And so
that's a deadly job where somebody stole your ideas and your
yeah, that's when all that happened. But anyway, so I told my sister, she said, I'm going. I said, okay, that's cool. And so my sister called up the next day. She said, did you get your plane ticket? I said, no. She said, I bought my ticket. I'm going to Atlanta. And I'm like, well, you didn't tell me you was going. So I said, well, I'll get a ticket. I'm like, it's January. It's cold in Michigan typically. Let's go to Atlanta. And so I just went to tag along with my sister who was actually in construction to learn. And that's why I had that epiphany, Nancy. I was sitting in the room with the representatives from Atlanta, how to do business with the city of Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard this man talking about, I think his name was John Scott, talking about a $15 billion program that was going to be implemented in the next 8 years. And I was like, that's roughly $2 billion a year.
Wow.
$2 billion a year is going to be spent. And his charge to us as Black women, this luncheon was, he said it would be criminal if you Black women did not find a way to get that money.
Yeah.
That was like a charge to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I came home on fire. I'm going to learn construction.
You were in the industry at the time, didn't have a lot of knowledge about it, but what motivated you. I don't
have all the knowledge I need. And I told the people, I said, you guys sure you want me to lead? They said, yes. Work some magic now. So I was like, okay. So, but that's how it started. I was introduced them in a hotel room at the Atlanta airport. I was in Atlanta, and I haven't looked back. And since then, we went back in Atlanta 4 years later, halfway through the $15 billion mark. It's now $300 billion. The MARTA train system, if you know anything about Atlanta.
Oh, yeah. I grew up in Atlanta, so I'm very familiar with
the MARTA train system and all the various stations and all the various stops and the little terminal bus stops are all going to be renovated.
Oh, wow.
In addition to that, you have a whole nother part of the airport, forever expanding, right?
Yeah, they just expanded, a good 20 years ago. They expanded.
Oh, they always expand.
The Detroit airport did.
They got some more. It was 4 agencies present there. Different airports, what do they call them? Different airlines that are maybe expanding their gates.
Wow.
So Delta was improving one of their terminals, Terminal T or I don't know which one it was. But the airlines make these capital improvements. And so all this money together came up to $300 billion. That's 4 years later. So it behooves us as Black people to get reparations. The government is spending that money every year, and we just have not known. I didn't know. Somebody may have known. But we
Well, the
spend
other thing
time
too,
trying
like
to
you
get
said,
jobs and build a, go get a degree. All you got to do is get educated in how to process these contracting opportunities, and the rest is history. So that's why I'm in this industry, to make people aware, like I'm doing now. This happens every year. Government is nothing but a big accounting system
what
of
you
who's
just
going to
said,
allocate the money.
right, and the money's coming from the government. They have to have some minority suppliers. That's why I
It's
was
coming
asking.
from us. It's coming from us. But the government passed that thing where we didn't have to have affirmative action anymore, right?
Oh, okay.
We
Yeah,
don't have it. It's no need. They said there's no need, and we still deal with the stuff we dealt with in our careers. And that's why I think this
yeah.
whole Black Lives Matter movement have taken on so much momentum, because I think for the first time, white Americans saw for the first time that there really are still some social injustices. If they're only around their own kind, they have no way of knowing,
Right.
because we don't talk about it. We deal with it and we go our separate ways. We tell each other.
Yeah.
But now the Black Lives Matter movement is a younger population. It's just like the students who were pushing a change in the 60s. It wasn't the 50 and 60-year-olds. We was accustomed to that's the way it is.
Right.
But the young people today, it was like, heck no.
Yeah.
Not in the world of technology and innovation that I don't even have to go to work for. Y'all work from home.
Well, when you now with the first Atlanta merger, one of the first Black mayors in Atlanta, Mayor Jackson, he was pivotal in getting Black contractors to work on the airport. So now it's like you coming around full circle, and you go through that whole thing where the saying, what you don't learn from your past, you end up repeating. It's like, how much has really changed from the 60s? I mean, I talk to people about it all the time. And when you see things like, these, the police brutality and what's going on in the media right now, and it's like, this is like Emmett Till all over again. It's like, it doesn't make any sense. So, with mayors that came in, you had Blacks who became mayors and governors, and eventually the president that was unprecedented. That was our time to like really move. And I feel like as soon as you let the pressure off, or you say, or we get comfortable, then all of a sudden we start losing ground. And it's like, wait a minute, like these strides are already made. Why are we moving backwards? And what's the problem here?
Well, I think what happens too, Nancy, and this is my take. This is not saying it's absolutely certain, but many of us was introduced to this wealth creation, and we just built wealth for ourselves.
Absolutely.
And we did not, I think Vice President Kamala Harris says it best. She said, I may be the first, but I will not be the last. When most African Americans start getting those contracting positions at the airport, they were supposed to become gatekeepers.
Absolutely. Once you have that, you have a responsibility to your community. And I'm not just like trying to, guilt trip, celebrities, basketball players and all that. I'm not even going there. I'm not talking about that particular group of people, but I'm talking about people who have made it in other arenas. We know only like 1% of, all basketball players are going to make it to the NBA, probably less than 1%.
Right.
So I'm not really talking about that group. I'm talking about the gatekeepers who opened the door, like these first mayors. And, that was like that was the last segment of Eyes on the Prize. It was talking about Blacks in government.
Yes. Coleman Young was just as critical here in Detroit. And where we got pushback because we were so new to the political arena.
Right.
That we didn't offer the support to these trailblazers because we didn't understand the system.
Absolutely. And I think we took for granted that there is power in numbers. I mean, we saw that with the last election. But I'll say, like, one of the things that Michelle Obama said in her documentary is people came out in numbers to vote for the president, but they didn't come out 2 years later to vote for the Senate. And it's like, he was so he didn't do anything. And she said the Senate elections were more important than the presidential elections. But like you said, there's just been so much miseducation and non-education.
Political service. And so
Yeah.
that's one thing we say in our organization. You're not in business if you're not in politics. And I heard that phrase being said around the sisters in NABWIC, and I had no idea what they meant, but I understand today. I understand today. I've had a chance to hear lobbyists. We have a legislative committee, and I've heard advocates and lobbyists come and share with us, what's going on at the Hill. I mean, as a matter of fact, this coming Friday on the 27th in the state of Florida. You see, we just had a national election that included the seat,
and then the Senate
and
race.
the results weren't very desirable by everybody, right?
Right.
So when you go back to the state level, these governors that did not side with the Biden administration, because we still play this political game, which we're bringing to an end. I call it as a new party in town. It's called Black Women. That's the party of affiliation you want to join.
Live like Kamala Harris. I love that.
Yes, it's called Black Women, because see, when Black women get educated about the process of how this political change the money and it impacts my neighborhood, we're gonna make a difference. How do we know that? Look at Sister Stacey Abrams. She understands this political process, and look how she moved.
Right.
Now, it's not about just to be political in the seats, but now to take the legislation, which we do Friday, and say, this is the proposed bill. This is how this bill will impact our families. This is how this bill will impact our businesses. And we need you to reconsider how it's written long before it gets to the Senate floor, long before it gets to the House floor. This is the relationship you must have with your elected officials. When were we educated on that? We weren't. We was told to go vote on election day. Power of your vote. The power of your vote is to monitor the power of their vote because they work for you.
Absolutely. And also holding political officials accountable too. Once they get voted in, they need to keep the promises that they made that got them elected. And a lot of
they
us
work for us.
Exactly.
Listen, you have a company and you have to hire some new employees. You don't hire them and it's just a free for all. You hope they do good by the company. It's called training. They go training. They have to work with a buddy to make sure they understand the systems and the operations. We have put our people in and they're like, let's see what they do. No, those are your employees. We didn't have this education. That's why I say the new party is Black women. So one of my side initiatives is the Diva Project, and our system is being rebuilt. Someone hacked our system and cracked.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
We call it the Power of 10. It's being developed. I just had to get resources in the midst of COVID, so it's taking a little longer. But just imagine, Nancy, in our city of Detroit, we have 7 districts, and most cities have some type of divisional lines for their city council, their aldermen, or whatever they call their local elected officials, is some kind of jurisdiction. Can you imagine what would happen, Nancy, when Black women gather in each of those districts and build a community 10,000 strong, so someone is always reviewing legislation as it comes down? Now we can ensure it reflects this community. Because you are right in this community. We say, well, there's Blacks in, baby, we're not saying there's not Blacks and whites in these communities, but it's always been Blacks and whites in the community. That hasn't changed how the laws came down, now has it?
No, not at all.
We can just now enforce that you will not get this seat. Stacey Abrams gave us a gift this election to say, you will not get this seat if you don't take care of us, all of us. And that's why I say it's a new political party called Black Women. There's an organization called Higher Heights that's preparing Black women to run for political offices. That might not be your call. It might not be my call, but I'm gonna be closely connected to the process to make sure certain initiatives. What are the concerns of your neighborhood? So you have to serve as that liaison. And that's why I say you have to become a wealthy solutionary. You have to have enough wealth that you can now direct decisions. You can influence decisions. Let's not forget, we in America, and we have political campaigns, and people.
Well, one of the things too, when you talk about building wealth, I mean, that's a mantra of wealthy people. They are heavily involved in politics. There's some reason for that.
There's a reason for it. People can
buy the president if they could, but they can't.
You know, everyone got mad at Donald Trump, and Donald Trump said this one thing. He said, well, it's not my problem if people are too stupid to take advantage of the tax laws. The tax laws are written for business owners. Now, if you choose to remain a W-2, you just
Right.
don't get the benefits. It's nothing against you personally.
Right.
You just don't get the benefits. I worked 9 W-2s for years until I got exposed to entrepreneurship. It started through a simple point of network marketing, something most of us say, not interested. I'm not selling my friends, but they never thought that they could reclassify themselves with that business, even though not profitable yet. They could reclassify themselves and
Mm-hmm.
their expenditures become tax exempt. But guess what? We've waited so long now that's been removed from legislation.
Mm-hmm.
We got to have a new tax law. We have to see what the Biden administration is going to write it because many of those things, like meals for your business expenses and travel, and some of those things, all got some new guidelines.
Right.
Government and business go together.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, we were sitting right in this room at Incubizo when it was you, me, Shannon, and Reggie. And she was telling us, you remember that she was going to be meeting with some politicians, that she's like, they're coming to, this person's coming to a senator or mayor or whoever is coming to my house on Saturday. I was like, oh, wow. Like, that close to
A state rep for the area she's looking to develop. Yes. So you have to have that close relationship because if you're looking to develop in your community, you want to have the state looking out for the funding. That state rep, what funding is available for this? What legislation could be an impact on this project? And that's
available.
Yeah, that's their job. And they'll find that for you. They will love to find that for you. They are inspired when their constituents come and say, this is some direction for you. They're not fighting in the wind in the dark. They're fighting.
The mayor or the senator, though, they're not coming to everybody's house. So we kind of know that.
Listen, girlfriend, that's what I said. Wealthy solutionaires. When you are a wealthy solutionaire, you will accept the invitation.
But yeah, I remember during the last election between Biden and Trump, Biden kept honing on Trump, over the taxes, his personal income taxes. And one of Biden's arguments was like, you pay the same amount of taxes as a school teacher. And, I teach full time. So I was like, oh, what? I said, that's ridiculous. He's a multi-billionaire. And we don't really know if that's substantiated because Trump would never expose we're still waiting to this day to see what his his tax return looks like. But he made a good point because he said, look, I just took advantage of the business laws that you guys have in place. And I mean, to a certain extent, he did it on a bigger level, but that's why a lot of people go into business because they want a tax break. They go into business to make money, one, and they want a tax break, two. But like you said, the laws were written in favor of business owners. So, this is the United States of America. It's based on free enterprise. So it makes sense.
So Nancy, one of the things we do in our real estate education is we show individuals who have worked their 9 to 5 and have substantial size 401ks that if they start touching that money, they have a big tax bill. We can show them how to minimize that to almost zero. Legally. This is not tax evasion.
Right.
Using the tax laws that were designed for you to put money in circulation to stimulate the economy. It's just like a nonprofit. You get tax exempt status, not because you're nonprofit, but because you're providing a service that the government would have to otherwise provide.
Themselves, yeah.
So they give you the credit of saying, well, if we can stop making those payments, there's more resources to do a service that we will otherwise have to provide.
Right.
So think about a 401k that has all this stash of money, and they could take that money and start putting it in certain business contexts that stimulates the economy, grows, revenue. The government then says, yeah, okay, we'll bypass that. You just hired 25 people. Yeah, we'll bypass some of that tax revenue because otherwise we have to feed these people on welfare, unemployment. They're gonna run out of stimulus check in a minute, So
ain't going too far. I'm just gonna tell you right now. I mean, I just used mine to I reinvested in the DBHG, but I mean, I'm thankful for it, but it pays some of the bills for a month. The first one did.
Did it cover all your bills? You know, it's so amazing because so many people are in a position where they need that. And Nancy, that's what's so beautiful about this year 2021 post COVID is we get to help people who had to sit down now at home. Now it's time for you to reinvent your next step.
Absolutely.
And I hope whoever's listening to this is encouraged to say, you know what? Maybe I need to start thinking about business. You know what? Maybe I need to get better connected with this Detroit business hub because they may have this kind of information that could shift the tables for me. Because see, your current predicament is not the promise of your future.
Right.
This is just the current predicament. And something my grandmother told me, I said, Grandma, how did you get to be 92? She said, and you just so worry free. She said, honey, one thing you learn after you live long enough, this too shall pass.
Yes.
So what we're experiencing right now is going to pass. But I don't want it to pass and you have not been equipped to catapult yourself forward. Through business, through real estate, through the trades, through construction. Stay connected.
Yeah, so what we're seeing is, I think what Ronald Reagan said several years ago, I was a little girl at that time. Mm-hmm. He said, what you have here, I'm paraphrasing, is a have and the have-nots. And we're seeing this divide between wealth and poverty. It just keeps the divide keeps growing. And I think it's because some people put so much trust in their employer. And you got to realize, like, your employer, that's a business owner too. So they look at, I know you think you're like so loyal to this company, but they're looking at their profit margins and they look at, profits and losses, and employees are their biggest liability. So it's a shocker when someone loses their job and they say, hey, either, what do they call it? We're rephasing our organization, or, basically we either can't afford you anymore or we don't want to pay for you anymore. So you're expendable. And I think that's so hard for a lot of people to grasp. But
you know what, Nancy?
That they make money.
It's hard for the homeowner because those employees become their family.
Yeah.
They don't go to sleep at night thinking about they have that many families to provide for.
Right.
So I'm not going to say everybody's like, oh, kick them out the door. We're going to make more profits. There are a lot of employers right now who they've just been gutted like fish.
Yeah.
To make a choice. They know how many families that's going to be impacted because they can't keep those business doors open.
Yeah.
And so I don't put everybody in the same classification. You know who you are as a business owner. But
right.
Those become an extension of who I provide for. I mean, my struggle is I provided for 28 people.
Right.
If I don't get back to work, that's 28 contractors I cannot hire.
Yeah.
And so that's what bugs me at night. Somebody was like, well, why are you worried about your construction company? Because that was the first time I had an attachment to someone else's livelihood being a activity. And that was a different experience than just real estate revenue. And so, a lot of businesses are going through that space right now, and they're asking themselves, how do I get back on top? These PPP loans that was supposed to help. We know a lot of them went to the bigger firms. We didn't understand all the ins and outs. These people have legal teams that know how to find the laws and support their businesses. Many of us don't have legal teams, We just get somebody to review our contracts.
They were created to help employees, but it's like, where's the support for the leases, the mortgages, the infrastructure of the company? I mean, you can't just paying employees. You still have a lot of other bills that you can't really.
Lots of other bills that they're only going to allocate 40% to. So you can have all the workers show up, but you don't have the money to make the rent.
You still got to bring revenue and money through the door. I mean, I'm just like, who came up with this? Who thought this thing? People feel like they didn't really think this through very much. So it's like, thank God, we're a home-based company. Once COVID hit, DBHG went totally online, and that was one of the nice things about us being brand new. We didn't have any employees to lay off. I mean, we were less than a year old, so
that's
January, COVID hit March. we couldn't apply for anything because we weren't old enough. We didn't really have enough skin in the game. We hadn't been long enough. But it just showed me like I actually prefer to work on cash and carry. I didn't want to get into a whole lot of debt and have to pay that back. So we have like one small Kiva loan, and we have that was paid through crowdfunding, and we have a really small line of credit through PayPal, and that's it. And everything else we just I just like trust God, like somehow, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's just what's going to work best for your business model, because in the space of real estate, I'm going to use all other people's money because I can leverage it. If I try and use my 100, I mean, we do this in our classes when we teach. To use my money on a deal, I may only get a 6% return on my investment when this project we exit. But if I leverage it, that's less money up front, I can get almost 11.9, which is almost 12%. So I get twice as much money using less of my money. I get to double more of my money. So you look at it from, it's the business model.
It is
and it's education. We were talking about education, and I know that Detroit Hub is going to be very instrumental in bringing business education and savviness. It's much bigger than you having a skill or talent and you're trying to exchange your product or service for cash. That's part of the business. But I'm a business strategist from profession. So I look at how do you strategize to be 3 times this big. People ask me when I enrolled in Goldman Sachs, you had to be interviewed to get it. I had applied before. And so my company from one year to the next had 10x. That means it grew 10 times. So the first thing they asked me before even they asked me like, thanks for coming to interview, or they said, we just have one question. I'm like, okay. And they said like, we want to know, are these numbers real? You're really good.
I want to know how you did it.
I was like, yeah, that's real here. I ain't no need to be giving Uncle Sam some money on something like that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I found my taxes. You saw my tax return.
Yeah. So how's your experience with Goldman Sachs? I did take one of their what do they call them? It's with one of their tools that you use to like budget your finances. So it was really good.
Know your numbers type workshops or something.
Say that one more time.
Was it like know your numbers workshop or something where you got to know your
like
numbers?
that. Yeah, they have like a productivity tool where you like punch in your expenses and your income.
Yes, lifetime. Say that was a lifetime. You put all the numbers in the book and it spits out on the outcome. I think that was the life. They still use that.
Yeah. I took a one-day seminar through NABO. It was 2 parts, and I think it's called like Strictly Business Cash Analysis or something like that.
Yeah.
And you go to it was a webinar at this time. It was post-COVID, and then you come back 2 weeks later after you played around with the tool a little bit, punched your numbers in. So I actually asked one of the representatives to see if they would partner with DBHG this year. So we're still working on that because I don't want to add any more lecturers to the lecture series, but I want to add a couple more workshops.
Yeah, hands-on, tangible things that they can walk away with results and learn how to shift their business. I said something earlier, Nancy, you talked about the haves and the have-nots, and one of the critical things that creates haves and have-nots is really just information.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, which we talked about earlier with, partnering with your elected officials and holding them accountable. And, for so long, we have not been at the table to even know what to ask for, to negotiate for. And you had also talked about when we were sitting at the table, the 4 of us, we haven't been a part of the discussion. You don't even really know what to ask for to negotiate. We haven't even been invited to the table. So it's like, once you get to the table, you're like, I'm so happy to be sitting here. You just, you're like smiling and, you kind of feel like you don't really belong there. And you just want to be part of the team and all that. And you're kind of a joke because you're the only one there that's like not trying to negotiate anything. You're just happy that you were invited, you know, and able to sit at the table. So I think, yeah, I just think we really have to be held accountable to educate. And I think there's been so much miseducation around voting, and holding our elected officials accountable. More so of it is coming out now.
Yes, it's more exposure that people, younger people are involved, and information is moving so much faster. So they're asking a different set of questions.
Right.
We're coming to the table. We used to be excited to be at the table, but now we're at the table and we're gaining that information that circulates that table. And so you sit at that table, you're going to figure out what that information is. And our younger people just now have access to information. You can Google information. You can I haven't started it yet because I have to get a new phone, but this whole Clubhouse thing with the information that they said that's inside of this new platform is just over the top to make you aware of things. My girlfriend discovered how she can go get a grant for $1 million in the room. It's just who you're in the room with. And so
we already know, like, with the whole COVID thing and all of these dollars that were available, that we were left from that table pretty much too, because a lot of us, because we weren't traditionally trained in business, didn't really know how to read the business language or the legalese. And there's so many ways that, you know, I think that minorities are disadvantaged in multiple ways, because one of the things that I had seen in a webinar was, you know, a lot of you had to have some kind of a cash flow, and a lot of minority business, not a lot, but there's a certain percentage of minority businesses, they're open. I mean, they're, you know, making purchases, they're spending money, but there's not necessarily a whole lot of income coming in. So it's like, you know, is this a business or a charity? And, you know,
and when they stop the ball,
for the first maybe 1 or 2 years, but eventually there's supposed to be some pickup where you're supposed to be able to gain customers. But like I said, we just have not been traditionally taught, and unless someone gets formally trained or they're in some kind of a training program, like, you know, either through real estate or insurance or whatever else, some people are just like, well, mom and pop businesses said, well, I just, you know, I lease a space, I open it up, I sell my goods or services, and, you know, the people are supposed to come. And that's, you know, the simple model in its simplest form, but it's like a lot of, you know, that leaves out the information highway. So a lot of people that weren't able to pivot to the internet because they didn't know how, because they didn't have that internet knowledge on how to use it. They didn't know who to go to hire. So there's just so many gaps in our education, and I think that's one of the main reasons why DBHG is here. That's one of the main reasons why I started it, is to help fill those education gaps.
And I think that's going to be so critical as we come out of this space, because businesses are being forced to learn faster. And understanding how much we didn't know. Is not about just moving my products and services, but I do need to know my numbers so I can make projections on how many new customers I need to add to this mix. Because you do lose money in the first 2 years. I mean, I got caught. I'm not going to say I didn't. I have wrote my plan. I would not pay myself the first 3 years. And so on my 3rd year, when we're supposed to make this big shift and got more customers, and we increase the size of our contracts. That's what we did. You know, we're not going to go for the little contracts. We're going to go for the larger contracts. But COVID came, and who's going to let you in their house and remodel?
Right, exactly. And then, you know, even when COVID hit, one of the things that we talked about in one of our teachable courses was we talked about planning. Ellis Liddell once told me, you know, hope for the best, plan for the worst. And nobody like has a catastrophe plan. Like,
that was not in the equation. A total.
I mean, most business owners are extremely optimistic, right? And so
we are.
See something like this happening, like it's never happened in our lifetime. So they had like I think the bubonic like
never be ready
1900s. So it's like we weren't alive then. Like we didn't think something like this could happen to a first world country. And it's crazy, but we don't really come up with a catastrophe plan, but it's necessary because, you know, what happens when the bottom falls out? What are you going to do? So,
our catastrophe happened so quick. You didn't even have time to make a exit plan.
you really didn't. It was just like,
It's
oh
like
my
a
God,
sweet
the government comes on, it's like, okay, the whole state's getting shut down now. Yeah, schools and everything else, and
like, that's it.
and so everybody was like, okay, well, we can do this temporarily. Like, this is only gonna, go on for like, maybe at the worst 3 months. But who would have thought we've been in this like now almost a year?
I think I heard Robin
Over yet.
This is month 14 of 2020. We're in the 14th month of 2020.
Oh my goodness. I'm just like, what in the world? And people are saying like they don't want to get vaccinated. So I'm getting into politics now. I'm not going to get, but I'm like, okay, so you see the worst case scenario of COVID. I don't really know of anyone who's died from taking the vaccine yet. So I'm going to go with the lesser.
We don't know that because we do know people who have died after taking the vaccine. We don't know if it was from the vaccine, but they died in a week or two. So,
oh, Lord, that's not good.
It's just new. I think that, and this is just a point of view, and I know people have to do what they have to do. And I heard a doctor talk about it's just, well, for African Americans, historically, we have not responded the same way to just even traditional. Look at the measles. She named like 5 or 6 experiences, not even the Tuskegee one that we knew was set up against us, but even the basic ones where there's been adverse reactions. And so she just feels like there has not been enough consideration of what could happen to the Black community with these vaccinations. So we had a built-in confidence. They was like, we built it and y'all go first.
Right.
No, that didn't come over good based on our history. So
right.
You had did all of your test studies with only African Americans, we could feel more comfortable and we can meet some of those people. But to say you go first, and that just didn't make sense to me. I've never known in the history of the African diaspora that we had this kind of credence that we want to be first. So we don't have a historical comfort level that you really want to make us a priority. Because historically, we could even just go get food, bread, water, housing, education, all these disparities, police brutality, and all of a sudden we're first. That's hard to buy into. That's hard to buy into because we've never been first, and we've been fighting years to make us just side by side. We're not saying
we just want an equal playing field. That was it.
Level the playing field. And if you've never given us any room, all the stuff we deal with our commercial in our corporate careers as women and as men, we just don't have a history that somebody would really think, oh, we're gonna give y'all this break. No, not on the vaccine.
Right.
I'll tell you, how about on those contracts for the roads and the bridges? Give me a break there. On the next housing projects and contracts, give me a break there. Then I'll probably believe. But that's my point of view, people. Don't take this as the views of this show. That's Kimle Naylor's view. And I stand beside it.
Well, it's so refreshing to, have this conversation with you. I got to know you a lot more. And the reason is I think you're giving a lot of people hope because I think a lot of people are trying to see a way out and they don't really know how to do it. And frankly, based on my past and what I know on how to start a business, some people need turnaround money like right away. They need to see something in the next 30, 60, 90 days. So they don't really have time to, education is important, but they need to, I think when you're talking about the contracts, that's something tangible that people can see.
Yeah.
Okay, you can show people the path on how to get there. So I know this is not going to be the last time that we're going to meet. I love what you're doing with this.
But Nancy, we have things for everybody. We have something for everybody. I literally am building this repertoire of opportunities because I plan to come on. We did an all-day event. It's supposed to have been 4 hours yesterday. I was working. I was attending it, and it ended up going to about 10 o'clock last night. From 10 in the morning, almost 10. And it was to empower people to understand this is your current predicament. We heard from a Black sister who said she was in the shelter with her mom. All they had was the one cot for the 3 kids and mama. Her mama looked her in the eyes and said, don't let this be a leader or a follower. Don't let this predicament predict your future.
Absolutely.
This is where our spiritual ancestry comes into play. And I'm not saying a religious, Christian, Buddhist, whatever that is. This is where you get to say, if I make a shift right now, and shift from moving from just thinking I'm a physical person with these limitations. And I dare to ask the greater force within me to show me what I need to know. See, this is a lot of folk going to be pushed into living by faith. But if you start building a relationship, I ask people just take 5 minutes a day.
Mm-hmm.
If you're still working, take 5 minutes out of each hour and just welcome yourself home here.
Mm-hmm.
Feel you. Feel you. Ask yourself what I really fear. What are the fears? What are the concerns? What are the doubts? Don't smile in everybody's face. It's all good and you're crushed when the door closes. Get right here.
Right.
Home. Everyone who's willing to take that challenge, Nancy,
Mm-hmm.
will find an inner voice that will tell them how to make a way out of no way. How do I know that, Nancy? I had no idea how I was going to do that project. I had no idea how I was going to perform on that construction. I mean, that's a high visible contract that I said, yes, Nail Right's going to perform. I didn't even have workers, Nancy. When I said, yes, we'll get you some staff there. They wanted
Right.
5, we called it a team of 5. I said, okay, on a Thursday for Monday.
But you made a way. You made it work.
Because inside of us, if we
Yeah.
ignite, and this will be talking over these next, I will help you ignite your intuitive knowing so you really tap into your intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
There's an
Well, we want to thank everybody for joining us on tonight. As you can see, this was an extended interview. I think this went longer than both Kimle and I had expected. It was a really intimate discussion. As you all know, we have been involved with COVID for well over now 2 years. This interview was about last March, so this is a year and a quarter ago. And COVID is still around. President Biden is requesting, I think, another, it's in the billions. I don't want to put the exact number on there. I just heard on the news this past weekend of dollars to have another round of vaccinations this fall and winter to prepare for the winter season because they are anticipating a fresh new wave of COVID hitting us again. So we are totally not out of the woodworks. We're still required to wear masks at work, at the job that I'm at. So COVID is not going away as fast as we would have hoped. I just hope that everyone stays safe. We have not had an event with DBHG since December. This will be our first official live event of the year. We did attempt to have other events this year earlier in the year, but we ended up turning them into podcasts for various reasons. So we hope that you all come out and support the event. We are going to exercise social distancing as much as possible. Wearing a mask is not mandatory, but we do say, do what makes you feel most comfortable. And we look forward to seeing everyone on July 5th. Please be safe this upcoming holiday season and in the summer. Continue to practice social distancing and wearing your mask. We will continue Kimle's interview on Thursday. Kimle will actually be joining us live in the studio. We've been texting each other back and forth since I played her previously recorded video. So let me just check. On the 23rd. She'll be joining us in the studio on the 23rd. So we still have about 20 minutes left of this interview, and I might just pull up some highlights from another interview I had with Kimle. We'll also play the new membership video. If you have not seen our new membership video, please take a look at it. It's on our YouTube page under DBHG Nancy O'Neill. Please also subscribe to our network. It's free and you get notification of all of our upcoming podcasts. And as you can see in the corner up here, it's an ad for our ribbon cutting ceremony. Once again, go to dbhg.org for more information. We look forward to you joining us for our upcoming event, becoming a subscriber on YouTube, and also for visiting our website. Make sure you like our Facebook page as well. Might as well throw all my social media plugs in at one time. And that is DET Biz Group on Facebook, Detroit Business Group on Facebook. And we look forward to seeing everybody on Thursday at 6 p.m. Bye-bye, everybody. Or 5 p.m. 5 p.m. on Thursday. Bye, everyone. Have a good evening.